Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Accelerating Programmer Productivity with SQL. Programmers know a lot about the IBMI, their database, and general database rules. They're often given the task of gathering complex data for their business users and presenting meaningful results so their management teams and business users can make real-time critical decisions. SQL gives IT an easier yet powerful way to accomplish this task. Accelerating Programmer Productivity with SQL is the first of a three-part series on SQL that we will have. The second session will be on August 3rd, and we will drill into how SQL is used as a data access and query tool. The third session of this series will be later in August, and we will focus on how you can communicate information clearly and efficiently to users through data visualization with SQL. My name is Stacy Jensen. I'm the sales manager for the BI division at Help Systems, and I will be your host for today's webinar. Today we have our BI expert, Mike Stegman, joining us. Mike is a senior data access consultant with Help Systems. He's been working with SQL for over 15 years, has worked on the IBMI since its inception in 1988. How are you today, Mike?
Doing real well, thank you. Glad to be here, and hopefully we'll share some information to some people out there. So some familiar names online and some new ones. So hopefully we can get some new information out to everyone.
Great, thanks. A little housekeeping about today's session. If you have questions during this session, use the chat feature to send your message. You can reach that chat option by clicking on the orange arrow at the top right-hand side of the screen. We will address all those questions during our Q&A at the conclusion of the webinar. And just one more note, I'm recording the webinar and we will follow up with the link to the recording in a day or two. So let's go ahead and get started. Mike, I believe we are going to kick off with a couple of polling questions. So I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, that's right. So first question we're going to launch here. Here we go. What do you currently use for your data access tool? There should be, everybody should see it out there. Go ahead and take a vote. We're looking for, what are you using? SQL, IBMI query, programming, straight SQL, or some other type of method or some other tool. So results are coming in, looking pretty good. Oh, all right. Excellent, excellent. And like Stacy said, we're, okay, excellent. So I don't know if you can see this at all, but looks like 73% are using SQL, a little over 50 using Query 400, and a little over 50% also using programming, 73% using SQL, so and 13% using other. Excellent. Sounds great. Looks like I don't see any more activity. Oh, numbers changing a little bit more there, so maybe a few stragglers coming in. So we'll give it a few minutes more. Again, using this new a new system here, it's a little bit different. So we'll go ahead and give it just another few seconds here. There we go. I think that should be adequate. Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for responding. Got one more question here. Close that one. Pick a second question now. The second question is, where's your data? For those of us who are old enough to remember that old Wendy's commercial, where's the beef? Where's the beef? Where's your data? Where's it at? So that's our question here. So is it on the IBMI in a DB2, Microsoft SQL server, Oracle, Postgres, something different? There are other options. There's MySQL. There's other DB2 databases. Go ahead and answer. Looks like most people are on IBMI with the DB2. Excellent. Excellent. Microsoft's SQL server still out there for quite a few. Good to hear. Good to hear. Again, we'll give it just another couple of seconds here. I think our attendees are doing pretty well with your excellent. Excellent. All right. Give it just another couple seconds here, and then I'll close this poll. Got a few numbers still coming in. Wow, 75 to 15. Excellent. Got a 5% Oracle and 5% other. Beautiful. I'm going to go ahead and close this poll now. Excellent. Share the results of this one just so everybody can kind of see where it's at here. Just hopefully you can see that there. 75%, 15%, 5 and 5. All right. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. It's always good to know who's using everything and you know what's out there too. So on the original question here, we had again 69% using SQL, 50% using query, 56% using programming, 75 using SQL. It's kind of a loaded question with the SQL, but we still like to ask it. If you know SQL, you know what I mean by loaded, because you can use SQL within a program. So there's different ways to do it. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in. I do find this illustration here humorous. Problem about being a programmer. Go ahead and take some time to read this. I think it's the way programmers think, right? And often for programmers, this logic is hardwired into the brain in such a way that it makes their world, their view of the world, simpler. If you program a computer to add 1 plus 1, it will return 2, unless there are some other variables or other factors that influence the outcome. If you request to add 1 and 1, don't be surprised if you get 11 as an answer. Did you catch what I said there? 1 plus 1 equals 2. 1 and 1 could be 11. You got to be careful what you ask, right? And that's similar in business. Executives or business users may make a request that they think is simple. You know, they may ask IT, hey, I want this, not knowing that if they aren't clear, they may get something other than what they expected, right? And it's not the fault of one side or the other. Business users don't always know the way programming language works and the way databases work, but they can be logical in their requests. Programmers have the coding knowledge, the database knowledge, and some business acumen, but business users should be a little more specific when they're often not quite as specific. So again, not blaming one side or the other. It's just somewhat humorous. Getting used to the new system here. Bear with me. There we go. Here's the agenda. The topics that I'm going to cover for today, I'm going to touch on creating complex reporting relatively simply, eliminating some barriers to get to your data, and some flexible distribution methods. And we'll wrap up with a demonstration of SQL. As programmers, developers, IT professionals, DBAs, power users, etc., as you learn more about your environment and your organization's data, the faster this research step of this circle will happen. The actual coding and then compiling steps come next, right? And they, of course, can be the length of those, the time it takes to code and compile, could depend on a lot of things. The compile, for example, could depend on the speed of your IBMI, the job queue backlog, right? How many people are coding and what's going in there. So if you are using RPG programming or CL programming, you know what I'm talking about, right? The delivery, that depends on the initial request a lot of the times, if there was an initial request, requesting it in a particular form. And changes are often requested, especially the first few times something is done, right? So it's a circle.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
Just a quick thing. I'm only seeing the poll results. I'm not quite sure if you have to close that out, and I'm not sure what everybody else is seeing.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm still seeing the last poll results.
Again, bear with us.
Sure. Perfect. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Stacy. Again, new system here. We've been using WebEx, now we're using GoToWebinar. So this was the circle. This was the circle I was talking about: research, coding, compile, deliver, changes, and it's a circle, right? And then changes. There are almost always changes, especially the first time around. How did the originator ask for the data to be delivered, or did they even ask? Did the developer make an assumption and take the route that was easiest for him or her? Will the business user who made the request ask for changes? They never asked for changes, right? More information or maybe another report. Probably something will happen. And the cycle continues. If you think of this as a clock, a representative of the programmer's day or week, that's a lot of work. What happens if you eliminate some of the steps and reduce some others? Okay, got a lot more space in there. So with SQL, the compile step is gone completely, right? Some of you said you use SQL, so you know that. Suddenly there's gaps, all right? Better if you even reduce these other processes, these other steps, then there's more time in there, right? The circle becomes smaller, the clock becomes smaller, right? You can do that. And remember I said the developers, the research time, the one that's still kind of big here, will go down as the familiarity of the data and the environment goes up. This research square will also go down, and then that makes that circle smaller and smaller. And changes that are made do not require a complete rewrite, are a massive undertaking. And redelivery can be simple. The business user won't have to wait long for that delivery. We have one client, it's a retail company, that told us that he reduced his time from 4 to 5 hours that he used to create a report in RPG. He reduced it using SQL to about 45 minutes. So 4 to 5 hours, that's half your day or more, right? Versus 45 minutes, less than an hour with SQL. Writing and creating is so much easier with SQL when you have a graphical tool like our viewpoint. And there you can set up shortcuts like custom library list, favorites library list, auto joins, more and more. Developers like shortcuts, right? And it's extremely easy to copy an existing definition, copy the SQL, make changes to it rather than rewriting one from scratch each time. So you have your Windows skill with this GUI interface that'll do that. Now looking at two of these, the bottom two pieces here more specifically, the design and the deliver. The design side. In SQL design, it's simple to create runtime prompts, calculated fields like character numeric, vice versa, converting to date, conditional logic, substring, concatenation, the list goes on and on. More powerful queries like unions or subqueries, and even scripts, maybe to build a temporary work file, and then display the results. All that can be done. Iterative processes that allows CLs or SQL scripts that loop through a list and then substitute values, like maybe once for each sales rep. So sales rep gets just one portion of the result set, right? Access to remote databases, like some of you already responded, the SQL Server, MySQL, Postgres, things like this. More can be done in using the same tool. Okay, and all of this adds power to the results without the corresponding increase in developer time. We have a customer on the West Coast that was just beginning with SQL. She had previously had a request from her user community for a particular report, but it had her stumped on how to go about getting the data, getting that information. Well, the request was kind of getting a little dusty, right? It was getting a little moldy. But with SQL, and I think she was still in the trial phase, our free trial phase, she was able to find the data, deliver the report the users had been waiting to get, and then if she was in the trial, she's now a client. So on the delivery side, designers can schedule the results if they don't want to run them interactively. You can send the results via email, use FTP to move the results to a different system, creating files, PC files on the IFS, for example, for the users to go get. The definition can be just saved, and then you direct the users to go run it from a browser, from Windows using Viewpoint, or green screen, right? So you have that flexibility in the delivery. A lot of things to look at there. Oops. On to the eliminating barriers, which is the second point of my agenda. SQL productivity, with SQL, productivity will increase, right? When programmers, designers, DBAs, power users, etc., all use the same tool to access data from different sources. Okay, and that's the key to using all of this. SQL scripts or script views are a method of comparing or combining disparate data from different platforms to gain new insights into what's going on in your organization or your industry, like quickly spotting trends or shortcomings. As an example, let's say that spring is normally your busy time, right? A lot of product movement is going on in the spring. But over the last several years, the busy months are creeping into the summer months. So, you're seeing a little bit more busy time in the summer. You see that sales are up, but the net profits hasn't kept pace. Well, some things to look at. Are you buying or making enough of the materials to meet the needs of this increase in the summer months? Or does overtime or rush orders eat into the profits? Are your shipping contracts adequate to meet the needs of the summer months product movements. Asking questions of the data and let the data tell you the story regardless of the source. And then delivery with the flexibility. With SQL, developers have the flexibility to choose many options with the definitions that are created. Results can easily be emailed to the interested parties. Users can direct to access the definitions directly as they need them. Like I said, from a browser, they'll get real-time information when they do that. And remember, if runtime prompts were added, the user selects the data they need. View definitions or scripts can be scheduled on a regular basis. Business users can use Excel, the add-in into Excel from Viewpoint to run the definition and quickly have the results in Excel that they need to make business decisions. Any or all of these can easily be done from one definition. And for the user, interactive selections with the browser or from Excel, the developers can quickly change the definition, and the users don't have to do anything. Just rerun their shortcut, for example, and they'll have new data. Okay? So those are just some of the things we're going to briefly touch on here. So again, creating complex results relatively simply, eliminating the barriers to data sources, and increasing that flexibility with distribution. And I'm going to sprinkle in a few extras as we go through, as I talk about the demo here as we proceed. So I'm going to bounce over to a different session here. Hopefully, Stacy, that everyone can see my screen here. I do have to change a couple things.
Yep.
Excellent. So
great.
Here we go. Here's Viewpoint. First thing I'm going to do is import a query definition. Some of you said you're still using query. So right from Viewpoint's main screen, I went File, Import Query, import my query library. I'm going to grab a couple of them here. Just grab these three. Doesn't make a difference. I'm just grabbing three to show you that there they are. So there they are, imported queries, just like that. The queries are left untouched. We now have 3 SQL objects. If I run them from here, I'm going to get the same data, but already, without doing anything, I'm in a more modern display, right? More modern than the green screen. And we have our options, of course, to send it to Excel and do all that other stuff right off the bat. But let's design one from scratch, okay? You have your SQL tab. I like to use the Files and Fields tab. Add the database file. I'm going to go to my favorites files list, right? I have it set up here, so I have just a handful of files that I use most of the time. So I'm going to grab 4 of them here. Click Open. Auto joining. I mentioned auto joining. Tell SQL what fields to join on when the files are brought in, and the joining is done. Set your defaults for the join types, and you're all set. Start clicking on some fields. Double-clicking will throw them into the select clause at the bottom, or clicking and dragging to move them in. Once they are in, you can move them around real easily. Okay, so I'm going to grab a field from the secondary file now to the third, and so on. I'm just going to start picking some fields here, clicking and dragging. And as you see me going through here, I have a whole bunch of fields. Now I'm going to move some around. Okay, I want to have a little bit different format, so just move to the left, and I missed a field here. I'm going to grab region and put it at the beginning. Okay, not bad. I'm going to create a derived or a calculated field. This is going to be relatively simple. Okay, I'm going to take the quantity order times actual selling price. But using this expression editor, we give you the access to the bunch of fields, including some special fields, and a whole lot of functions, the conditional logic, the converting to dates, converting character to American, substring, concatenation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those of you who've heard me talk, there's just a ton of these things out here before. There's a lot of them that you can play with. And like always, you want to give it an alternate name, IBMI compliant name, and then a user-friendly title to the column. Okay, so I'm going to change that. Now I'm going to change one of my other fields here. Address 3 is actually my city field, so I'm going to change that as well. All right, so there's a lot that I can do here just doing this. Like I said, my calculated field is simple, but remember, that's where it can get really complex. I'll show some more complex examples in just a moment as I add some order by here. So real simple, just clicking in that sorting cell. Now I'm going to hit the display, and then we're going to see the results come up. Came up on my other screen. Let me drag it over, sorry. There we go. There's my results. Okay. Not bad looking for the first kick out of my out of my view. So it just took a couple of minutes. I have the data. Again, my familiarity with the database really helped get this started. Okay, now I'm going to add a where clause, a filter. Okay, I'm going to use state because it's a real simple one. I'm going to make it a prompt. Okay, adding an ampersand in front of a field makes it a variable. There it is. We created it for you because I'm using the field name. Real simple to do. Now the user enters the state at runtime, and sorry, I came up in the wrong window. There we go. There's all my Illinois customers. With a prompted view, whether from a browser or from Viewpoint, you get a reprompt option. Real simple right from here. So I can just click on this, type in a new state, and I get new data. Okay, real simple, real easy to do. You can also expand out the prompt a little bit. You can change what's called the integrity test. Okay, and what you can put in there is you can make it a DB list, which is most popular, I believe, where you can identify a file or another SQL view. You can also use a values list if it's just a handful of values. States aren't, a big thing for a values list unless you have just a couple of states to select from, but codes, things like that. So I'm going to save this one. I don't want to hit, I have to give it a name, right? So I just put some sort of name. It went to my default library. Saves me time there. I don't have to keep changing my library. As a programmer, what a lot of times you do is you put it into your work library, and then you can move the object into a generic library and then control it with security on the host side, on the system side. Okay, so I save that up into different libraries. So I'm going to open up a couple others here that are a little more complex. Right, here's one called cash flow. Right, my background is accounting, so I know a little bit about accounting. And in order to create a cash flow from my database, I had to do all these unions, right? You look at this and say, wow, some of you might look at this and say, wow, that's pretty impressive. Others look at it and go, yeah, I do those all the time, right? But that's okay. Unions, they're quite extensive. So you see, I had to do a whole bunch of things in order to get this to work. My results appear simple. This is one of those simple requests from someone in accounting, perhaps, who wanted a cash flow, but based on the database, it had to be a little more work. But now I have a working cash flow view. Okay, I'm going to use another one here. I called it a subquery. So I'm going to go to that one, open this one up in Design. Now, if you don't know what a subquery is, that's okay. But what we use is in the where clause, we do another select. So I'm looking for the values where the amount due is greater than the average of the amount due from the customer master. So that's where the subselect comes in. There's more subselects. There's even more complicated. This is what's called a simple, but there are more complicated subqueries, and we put them into the where clause. Find out more, go to help, and then inside help, there's areas you can look for subqueries. That's what I always do. Okay. Another one I want to open here is this one called the 6-month view. Another way to look at the SQL is through the properties, file properties. You can copy and paste from here, right, if you need to, pieces or the whole thing. There's a lot that you can do. If you look at this one in particular, it uses several case statements, conditional logic within the view. Okay, so I'm doing some massaging of the result set as it's coming up. I'm also doing a convert date. I'm taking a field that's multiple fields, combining them into one. You can also take one. Here's my result set. Now I've extracted the month, I have the year, I have all that information right there with all my customers. So you can get complicated. I'm going to open this one up in Design rather than looking at it in the properties, just so you can see what it looks like. 3 files, a lot of calculator-derived fields. There's my SQL, again, with all those case statements and a convert date. So you want to be able to use all of those and build your logic within those. All right. Now, let's talk about the remote database. That was one of our removing the barriers piece, right? So in the Viewpoint Administrator, you can also do this from green screen, but I find it easier from here. Green screen is great if there's an issue, but I'm going to go to same system, Wisdom, maintain host servers. Anything with an asterisk, we provide for you. It gives you access to all these different things, Excel, Access, Oracle, etc. I created this one called Able. It's an SQL server. Put in all the relevant information about where it is and how to get it. Okay. Now, how do I get there? Well, I start a new view. Okay. First thing you do when you want to get here is go to the File Properties. and change the database setting. Now, I could have changed my setting. Let's say I'm working in a project in here, so I don't have to change this every single time. If I'm going to be working on Able on this SQL server for the next couple of weeks, I could change my defaults and I don't have to do this each time. So when I start a new view, it just automatically goes to Able. But now I'm connected to Able, so when I do my add database file, it's going to come in. I go to my database, find my file. It's pretty much the same here. Everything's pretty much straightforward. Some of the functions are going to be a little bit different because we are in an SQL server, right? I am using SQL syntax, but even though I am using SQL syntax based on my file properties, I've got to find the file here. Give me a minute. I went right past it twice. Customer master. There we go. So now, just like I had in my other design screen, right? Double clicking on the fields. I'll use them all here just to show that I am getting data. Select star, of course, means select everything. So I'm getting all columns, all rows. There it is right there. So I have all of my information. Everything's good to go. So I'm connecting to this Able, which was an SQL server, and now I have this view. Okay, it's all great. Now, what happens if you want to combine the data? Okay, I talked about ways to bring it in. Well, you have some views. You build your individual views to your different databases, right? I have some examples over here. I'm going to search for them. I'm going to search everything. There we go. There's one called Able that I'm connecting to that SQL server. I have one connecting locally, called it Bear, and one connecting to an Oracle database, calling it Cook. Okay. Now I'm going to put these into a script view. So I'll open up the script view in design mode, just so you can see what a script could look like. Scripts can be like a program. Okay, they can have IBMI commands, monitor message, delete file, etc. But I'm going to here I'm doing executing the iSeries view called Bear, putting it to a work file. Able, putting it to the same work file. You can do it differently. I just did it this way, going to one called Cook, which goes to my Oracle database, and then running a final view, which looks to my work file. Different ways to do it. Again, you can do whiles, if then else's, do loops, things like that within the script, almost making it like a CL program. Okay. Using a script view, you get the same options you get as a SQL view, right? I get the same options. So sort these by company. I have a prompt out here for the sort order, so I don't have to do it after the fact. And there I have. I put Able into my view definition, so I can identify what's coming from Able. I go down, there's Bear, and if I go further down, there'll be Cook. But I have all my data out here, everything. I have my toolbar that I can dump into Excel, put it out there. I'm all ready to go. Okay. So there's a lot that you can do. You can also, I mentioned that there's a lot of different options within SQL. You can email this, right? So it's a script. It's doing multiple stuff, but I can email it to somebody, maybe in an Excel format, right? I can do a lot of different processes. This is the flexibility, okay, that it gives me. Create physical files. I can print it to output queues, right? Now, if you have a script versus a script view, the options are a little different. Script view is designed to be viewed, right? Hence the name script view. It has the same options you had when you saw that right click when I did that, as you saw with a view. A script could be run to have something displayed, but it also could be run just to move files around, move data around, do emails, FTP, those types of things. This one I'm looking at here, very simple, 3 lines, big, woohoo. But what I'm doing is running one view, creating a work file, and then displaying a second one. So I'm going to use the 13th, since we're on the 13th day of the month here, and see my data. So now I get 13 rows back, right? So I have my data. It's out here. 13 rows. Let's make it 26. I'll do a reprompt. Make it 26. Boom. Now I have 26 rows. That's simple, right? Because that first view populated everything I needed into the work file. Then the second one prompts me for how many records I want to see based on the record ID. So there's different ways that you can do that. We give you access to that record ID. And again, with a script, you get just basically a run or a submit. With a view, you get the same script view, you get the same options as you do with a view. All right. So you have something here with email, for example. I can schedule things. Let me take a simple example here. Take my this one called AR. Show you what you can do with the scheduling side right from here. So I'm going to email it, right? If you have robot schedule, it comes into focus. If you don't, you have your IBMI job scheduler. You set it up here. You don't give you visibility to it, but we do give you the ability to create the entry. Click OK a couple of times, and I've now scheduled that out onto the job scheduler. In this case, it was robot. Scripts, same thing. Picked the wrong one here, but this one is prompted. You probably don't want to schedule something prompted, but that's okay. Same screen you get when you hit the schedule button, right? Robot schedule, if you have it, comes into focus. If you don't, the IBMI job scheduler. You can also go to those tools specifically and see the actual entries there. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up what I wanted to talk about from here. So what we saw was how fast and easy it was to make and see the reported results, adding calculations, definitions. Users don't have to add them each time, right? How many times do you have data just dumped into Excel and then the user has to pound on it for a day, right? Do as much as you can up front to improve accuracy and make it easier for the users. Empowerment is making the information easy and flexible for the business users. They rely less on IT for reports, and IT can do more productive things. I touched a little bit on security, putting things into different libraries, controlling them from the IBMI side. We also have security within SQL. And together, SQL and IBMI together provide the peace of mind that every IT manager really needs. So the more you know about your database and database relations in general, the faster you will begin to see your data in new ways. So developers, power users, DBAs can start using their basic Windows skills to create views, looks into the data, know things that maybe they didn't know before. You gain access to valuable data that was previously hard to get at. So quick install to begin, fast learning curve, fast return on investment. That'll surely make your CFO smile.
That's always the case, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If you can make your CFO smile, that's always a good thing. So thanks, Mike. A lot of good information. I know we're running short on time here. I wanted to take a look at a couple of the polling questions that came in during this session. I don't know if you have visibility to those. I know that one was, how secure is SQL? You did start to touch on that a little bit at the end there. I don't know if you want to address that in more detail now.
SQL, you can, once you create a SQL object, it's an object on the eye, so you can secure it directly from the eye. You can use IBMI security to say which users have access to it or to the library that it's in, those types of things. But some cases, users have all object, right? And what do you do there? Well, use SQL authority. There's a similar concept where you can secure by the library, the object or the file, okay, what they can get to. So you can use your SQL authority so they can see the data or not see the data. All right. So you have the object itself, then you have the data for the SQL security. A lot of things you can put into there. A couple different levels within SQL as well. So you have a lot to choose from.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think there was one more question. It was on dashboards. We really didn't touch on that today, and it was whether or not you could deploy dashboards through SQL. So I don't know if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, you can. Dashboards obviously can't be displayed from the green screen. You need to create them using Viewpoint. That's our GUI interface. You can run them from there, from Viewpoint or GUI interface, or you can run them from the browser. Okay, you build them, you put them out there, give the user a shortcut from their browser, off they go. If you have your own HTML web page, you can run it from there, so it's real simple to do, real simple to see. Great. I do see another question out here. The system is not cooperating on how to see it very easily. Let me see. It looks like it's coming from Chuck. I have an issue running scripts from Viewpoint Shortcut. I need to run a couple of views prior to running it out. Yeah, we can talk a little bit more in detail. That one's pretty specific, Chuck. So we can talk offline, or I don't know if hopefully you've worked with support on that, but if that's still out there. Brenda has a question. Is there a way to auto increment in Viewpoint? I'm not sure what she means by auto increment.
Maybe iterative processing?
Yeah, if that's one of the options I was thinking of. If you create a physical file on the fly, a work file, you can get at the relative record number. So you put things in the order you want, throw it out there, and then you just access the relative record number. There's a couple different ways. So again, if you haven't worked with support, you might want to give them a call, or you can email me directly with some specifics, and I'll see if I can answer it. If not, then we'll get in someone from support, or if it's more involved, that's great. So Brenda and Chuck, also thank you for your questions. That's all I see.
Great. Excellent. Well, just one more thing. We do offer a trial, so if you're not quite sure that SQL might be a good fit for you or not, we would be happy to work with you on that, help you get it installed and working over your database. So something to think about. And Mike, thank you. You did a nice job today with the demonstration.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
And thanks everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and we hope you have a great day.